I was thinking recently about how we are conditioned to recognize danger, like from the time we are kids.
Oh, right, like watching cartoons or reading comic books.
Exactly. The bad guy is usually pretty easy to spot. They have the menacing laugh, or they wear dark colors.
Maybe a sinister scar, or they are literally twirling a mustache.
Right. They know they are bad,
And
and they really lean into it.
it is the self-aware villain, the character who wakes up in the morning and just actively chooses chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a comforting archetype, really, because it is predictable.
It is. It makes the world feel organized. You know who the hero is and you know who the monster is. But today, we are going to completely mess up that organization for you.
We really are.
We are jumping into a deep dive on a single source that argues the exact opposite of that cartoon trope. It argues that the most terrifying threat isn't the person who thinks they are bad. It is the person who is convinced, down to their very marrow, that they are good.
It is a total inversion of what we expect. And honestly, I think it's a lot more unsettling than a movie villain because it feels so incredibly real.
So real.
The source material we have for this deep dive is fascinating because it is so condensed. We are looking at a single graphic image. It features a quote attributed to a watermark that just says, Iva Shavicki.
And before we get into the heavy psychological stuff, because trust me, it gets heavy, we really have to set the scene visually for you.
Yeah, the visual is a huge part of the message here.
It is. So if you are just listening, let me paint this picture for you. We are looking at what appears to be a piece of vintage textured stationery. It is framed by these really soft watercolor-style pink roses and thorny vines.
It has a very specific aesthetic. It's romantic, it's soft. It looks exactly like something you would see on a wedding invitation or maybe a vintage Valentine's card.
It really does. It just screams wholesome. But then, slapped right in the center of this beautiful floral arrangement is this stark, serious, typewriter-style text, and it basically delivers a gut punch to the reader.
And that contrast between the soft, inviting visual and the brutal truth of the text,
Yeah.
that is not an accident at all. It is central to what we are unpacking today.
Right. So here is our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack this specific profile of a dangerous person as defined by this text. We are going to dissect 3 very specific behaviors the author lists.
Rewriting stories, dodging consequences, and externalizing blame.
Exactly. And we are going to figure out why the source classifies this personality type not just as toxic, which is a word we hear thrown around all the time, but as terrifying.
Which is a massive distinction.
It really is. So let's just jump right in. The opening sentence of the source text reads, "The most dangerous people I've ever met genuinely believe they're good."
That statement just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it?
It totally does, because logically, I've always thought self-esteem is a good thing. We teach kids to believe in themselves. We all want to believe we are decent people. So why does this source flag the belief in being good as a red flag?
Well, it's a subtle but crucial distinction. There is a very big difference between aspiring to be good, like trying to align your everyday actions with your core values, and the rigid conviction that you are inherently unchangeably good.
Yeah.
Think about the mechanics of a conscience.
Let's unpack that for a second. How does a normal conscience operate?
Usually, if you or I do something wrong, let's say we snap at a friend, or we totally drop the ball on a project at work, we feel a pang of guilt, maybe a little shame.
Yeah, that horrible pit in your stomach. It's not pleasant.
No, it's terrible. But that guilt is functional. It is like a check engine light on your dashboard. It signals to you, hey, your behavior just drifted away from your values.
Right, something is wrong under the hood.
Exactly. And that signal prompts you to apologize, to fix the mistake, to change your behavior.
So the guilt is actually the course correction mechanism.
Precisely. Now imagine someone who has completely disabled that check engine light.
Oh, wow.
The person described in this source doesn't just want to be good. They believe they are good, with a capital G. It is a static identity for them. I am a good person.
I see where this is going. If my core identity is that I am a good person and I do something bad, those two things can't exist in the same space.
Bingo. It creates a massive psychological crisis. If I am good, I cannot have done that bad thing. So to preserve their identity, their mind literally has to reject the reality of their actions. The belief in their own goodness acts as an impenetrable shield.
It repels any evidence that they might have messed up.
Yes. So the danger doesn't actually come from malice. It comes from the defense mechanism itself. A villain who knows they are a villain might be reasoned with.
Right, you can say, hey, stop being evil.
And they might say, make me. But a villain who thinks they are the hero, They will burn the whole world down thinking they are saving it. You cannot reason with them because they are operating in a completely different moral reality.
Which leads us perfectly into the mechanics of how they actually maintain this alternate reality. This source text breaks it down into three distinct actions. It says, they rewrite every story, dodge every consequence, and carry zero accountability.
That is the toolkit of the delusion right there. And I want to go through those one by one because the specific word choices the author uses here are incredibly revealing.
Let's start with rewrite every story. That stood out to me immediately. The author didn't say they lied, they said rewrite. Is there a big difference there?
Huge difference. Lying usually implies intent and awareness. If I eat the last cookie and I tell you I didn't eat it, I know I'm lying.
Right, you have the crumbs on your shirt.
Exactly. I am consciously trying to deceive you to avoid getting in trouble. But rewriting suggests an editorial process that happens internally.
Oh, like they are actively changing the script in their head.
Right. It implies that when an event occurs, say an argument, this person's brain takes the raw footage of reality and sends it to post-production before it even gets stored in their long-term memory.
Wait, so they are editing the memory in real time?
Essentially, yes. To maintain that I am good narrative, history has to be altered to fit the script. So in the rewrite, maybe they didn't scream at you, they were passionately expressing their pain.
Oh, man.
Or maybe they didn't start the fight, they were just defending themselves against your aggression.
That is actually terrifying. Because if they rewrite the story in their head, that means they believe the new version, right?
That is the key to all of this. By the time they recount the story to you, or to anyone else for that matter, they aren't lying in the traditional sense. They are telling their truth. They fully believe the edit.
Which perfectly explains why you can never win an argument with them. You are arguing about what actually happened in reality, and they are arguing about the director's cut that played in their head.
Exactly. You are literally referencing two completely different timelines. And notice the source says they rewrite every story. This isn't just a one-time thing to save face when they get caught.
Right, it's a lifestyle.
It is a chronic, habitual way of interacting with reality. They are the protagonist of the movie, and the protagonist can never be the bad guy.
Okay, let's look at the next tool in their kit. The text says they dodge every consequence.
I absolutely love the verb dodge here.
It is very active, isn't it? It feels almost athletic.
It implies agility. Think about it. To dodge something, you have to see it coming. You have to anticipate the impact.
So they aren't oblivious. They actually see the fallout coming their way.
They sense the train coming down the tracks. They see the hurt feelings, the broken trust, the disciplinary meeting at work, and instead of bracing for impact or trying to stop the train, they just step out of the way.
And let the train hit someone else.
Often, yes. Think about the basic concept of consequences. Consequences are how human beings learn. You touch a hot stove, you get burned, you don't touch the stove again.
Right. Pain is the teacher.
But if you have a special suit that lets you dodge the burn every single time, you never actually learn that the stove is hot. You just keep touching it.
And everyone around you keeps getting burned while you stand there saying, I don't know why everyone is screaming, I feel totally fine.
That is it. That is the exact dynamic, and it leads directly to the third part of that sentence, which is that they carry zero accountability.
Zero. Not a little, not some. Zero. That is such an absolute term to use.
In psychology, we rarely deal in absolutes because humans are messy. Usually people take some accountability, even if it's just 10%. But this profile is incredibly rigid.
Why is it zero? Is it really impossible for them to just say, my bad?
It goes right back to that I am good identity. It is a house of cards. If they accept even 1% of the blame, if they admit, yes, I was toxic in that moment, the entire house of cards collapses.
Because if they did a bad thing, they aren't the perfect hero anymore.
So it is all or nothing. It's a closed loop, a sealed system. To admit fault is to suffer a massive narcissistic injury. So they will fight to the death, metaphorically, and sometimes even legally, just to avoid taking that tiny 1% of blame.
It sounds absolutely exhausting to constantly have to perform these mental gymnastics just to get through a regular Tuesday.
Oh, it is exhausting. But the cost is usually paid by the people around them, not by them.
Which brings us to the next section of the source text. And this part, the math here is just baffling. The text reads, in their minds, they've never hurt anyone, but somehow everyone else is always to blame.
Did you notice the spacing in the source there? Everyone else is almost jammed together into one single word.
Yeah, it looks like a collective noun, like the enemy.
It creates this intense me versus the world dynamic. But let's look at the logic there, or really the complete lack thereof. It's the victimhood paradox.
I have never hurt anyone, plus everyone else is hurting me.
It is a statistical impossibility. If you walk down the street and run into a jerk, you ran into a jerk. If you walk down the street and everyone you meet is a jerk,
You are the...
you are the common denominator. But this personality type is completely immune to that realization.
The text explicitly says, in their minds. It keeps grounding us in their internal perception of events.
That is the crucial qualifier. In the simulation they're running in their heads, they really are the perpetual victim. And this is where we get into the concept of projection.
Let's unpack projection for everyone.
Projection is a classic defense mechanism. It's where you take the unwanted feelings or traits inside yourself, like your own anger, your own incompetence or malice, and you attribute them to someone else. You project them onto the other person exactly like a movie onto a blank screen.
So if they are actually the one who is angry,
They will accuse you of being aggressive.
and if they are the one who is lying,
They will accuse you of being untrustworthy.
it is maddening. It's basically the, I know you are, but what am I defense, but applied by adults who have real power in your life.
It is incredibly effective because it immediately puts you on the defensive. Instead of talking about their bad behavior, suddenly you are scrambling to defend your own character. You're saying, no, I'm not crazy, I'm not aggressive.
And while you are busy defending yourself, they have successfully dodged the accountability all over again.
Exactly. It's a brilliant smokescreen.
So we have a profile here of someone who firmly believes they are a saint, actively edits reality to prove it, dodges all blame, and projects their own faults onto everyone else. The author of the source wraps this up with a very specific conclusion. They write, that kind of delusion isn't just toxic, it's terrifying.
I think we really need to spend some time on that specific word progression. The jump from toxic to terrifying.
Yeah, because toxic is a buzzword we use for everything now. Bad boss, toxic, bad ex, toxic, long line at the coffee shop, toxic. It usually implies something that just drains you or makes you feel bad.
Right. Toxicity is about the effect it has on you. It's poisonous. If you stay in a toxic environment long enough, you get sick.
Yeah.
But terrifying describes a totally different threat level. It implies fear. It implies a complete lack of control over the situation.
Why does the author jump to terrifying, though? Is it because these people are physically violent?
The source doesn't mention violence at all. It points to the delusion as the source of the terror.
That kind of delusion is terrifying.
Think about it this way. If someone is just mean or selfish or a known liar, you can usually navigate that. You can say, okay, this person is a jerk. I need to protect myself. You can negotiate boundaries. It's a transaction.
But you cannot negotiate with a delusion.
No, you absolutely cannot, because there is no shared reality to base the negotiation on. If you are trying to resolve a conflict using facts, logic, and shared history, and they are resolving it using a rewritten script where they are the angel and you are the demon, you aren't even having the same conversation.
It is like playing a board game where the other person changes the rules every single time you're about to win, but they insist they've been playing fair the whole time.
And they genuinely believe they are playing fair. That is the scary part. That is the terror. The profound realization that you cannot reach them. You can scream the truth until you are blue in the face, and it will just bounce harmlessly off that shield of goodness.
It is that deep feeling of helplessness, the realization that you are never, ever going to get closure. You will never get the I'm sorry that you deserve.
Or if you do get an I'm sorry, it will be one of those classic dodge apologies. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Or, I'm sorry you are too sensitive to understand my good intentions.
Those are the absolute worst kind.
It is gaslighting, purely and simply. It is designed to make you question your own sanity. And losing your grip on what is real, that is what is terrifying.
I want to circle back to the visual aspect of this source one more time before we wrap up today, because now that we have fully unpacked this darkness, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the delusion, I am looking at these soft pink roses again.
The Iva Shavicki aesthetic.
It is so jarring now. It feels almost sarcastic.
I actually think it is the perfect metaphor for everything we just discussed. It is a severe warning label, completely disguised as a greeting card.
Explain that connection a bit more.
Well, think about the profile we just built. Does this dangerous person present themselves as a monster? Do they walk into a room wearing a beware of dog sign?
No. They think they're good, so they probably present as incredibly nice, charming, helpful, maybe even a little fragile. Exactly. They probably seem like the sweetest, most caring person in the room. Just like this image looks like the sweetest, softest piece of paper on the desk.
So the thorns are hidden right there in the roses.
And the warning is hidden in the aesthetic. The visual presentation perfectly mimics the camouflage of the person being described. It is a rewrite in itself. It is taking an ugly, brutal truth that I take zero accountability for my actions and wrapping it in a beautiful, soft, floral package.
That is so true. It is incredibly disarming. You just don't expect a psychological horror story to be written in a delicate serif font on vintage paper.
And in real life, you don't expect the person who constantly claims to be the nicest guy in the world or the most supportive friend to be the exact one who rewrites history just to make you the villain.
It really makes you rethink your entire radar. We are taught from childhood to look for the wolf baring its teeth. We aren't taught to look for the sheep that is absolutely convinced it is the shepherd.
It fundamentally suggests that true goodness isn't about believing you are good. It is about being willing to look at the parts of you that aren't good.
Right. If you have to rewrite every single story to make yourself the hero, you aren't actually a good person. You are just a really good editor.
That is a brilliant way to put it. True accountability, which is the exact opposite of what this source describes, requires admitting when you are the villain in the story. It requires looking at the mess you made, not dodging the consequence, and saying, yeah, I did that. That was me, and I need to fix it.
Which this profile of person is fundamentally incapable of doing.
Zero accountability, remember. Their system cannot process it.
So we have unpacked this pretty thoroughly. We've got a clear profile here. Someone who is convinced of their own goodness, who actively edits reality to sustain that conviction, who dodges any and all fallout, and who views themselves as the eternal victim of everyone else.
And who is ultimately terrifying because they're completely unreachable behind that thick wall of delusion.
So for you, the listener, holding this grenade of a deep dive, what do you do with it? How do we actually apply this knowledge?
I think the real utility here is in pattern recognition.
Okay, tell me more.
Usually, when you're dealing with this exact type of person, you just feel crazy. You feel confused all the time. You start checking your own memory. You ask yourself, did I say that? Am I the problem? Maybe I actually am always to blame.
Because their conviction is so incredibly strong, it shakes your own conviction.
Exactly. This source is a vital reminder to trust the pattern you are seeing. If you see the rewrite, if you see the dodge, and you see the blame shift, you have to stop trying to win the argument.
Because as we established, you cannot win against a delusion.
You can only exit the simulation. You have to realize that their version of reality is closed for maintenance, and it is not opening up for you anytime soon.
Closed for maintenance. I absolutely love that phrasing. But before we sign off today, I have a thought that has been nagging at me this entire deep dive, and it's honestly a bit uncomfortable.
I have a feeling I know exactly where you're going with this.
Well, the source says these people rewrite every story, and they do it so convincingly that they actually believe it themselves.
Right. They don't even know they're doing the editing. So here is the really scary question for you. If they are so good at rewriting, and as humans we are all susceptible to wanting to be the good person, how do we know we aren't doing it?
That is the ultimate accountability check, is the 3 a.m. nightmare question.
It really is. How do you know if the version of events you are currently so upset about is the objective reality? Or are you just rewriting the script in your head to make sure you stay the hero of your own story?
We all have an internal PR firm working around the clock. We all naturally want to look good to ourselves.
So how do we actually know? How do we ensure we aren't becoming the dangerous person wrapped up in pretty roses?
I think the answer lies right there in the zero accountability part of the text.
Yeah.
If you want to know if you are safe from this delusion, ask yourself a simple question. When is the last time you said, I was the villain in that moment, and you didn't add a but at the end of the sentence?
Oh, wow. Just a raw, completely unedited, I messed up.
Yes. If you can do that, if you can look at the sharp thorns in your own garden without immediately trying to paint them pink, then you are probably okay.
But if you can't remember the last time you were the bad guy in a story,
Then you might really want to double check who is holding the pen in your own rewriting room.
a truly chilling thought to end on, but a necessary one. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure to be here.
And to you listening out there, check your drafts. We will see you next time.